So we are our third meeting of Italian Design Days. As you know, we had other two meetings. Every time we mix up Turkish creative curators and artists and designers with Italian curators, creative and entrepreneurs and architects. And it's very interesting how those kind of dialogues are related to the different kind of fields where they're involved. The first time was about being an entrepreneur, so it was kind of very specific. Last time was on interior design, and now we are connecting people more related to the world of, let's say, curatorial world, institutions, and architectural design. So I just introduce you briefly, and then they will organize everything. But moving from the Turkish side, Korkut, you are joining today. You are organizing the Alan Istanbul Contemporary Art Gallery. You have a very interesting story between Florence and Pittsburgh, so Italy and the US, and you are teaching and you are practicing in Istanbul. Deniz, it's so good to see you here today. Ciao, Deniz. Deniz is IKSV. I mean, it's the only way I can explain you. You are the Istanbul design. You are the Istanbul Biennale since 2013, and one of the reasons why Istanbul Biennale is so well known in the world is because of you. So I mean, it's a pleasure. It's an honor to have you here together.
I don't want to take all the credit, but Istanbul Design Biennial, because we are also having a second Biennale institution, not to confuse.
Sure, you're right. I'm sorry for that. And Alper Deriboğaz, Salon architect, is a fantastic architect. We have been working together in the last years for the Istanbul City Museum, sorry. And Alper is based in Istanbul and is practicing in Istanbul and also in Europe. And Cherubino Gambardella, our Italian fellow. Cherubino is a full professor in the Faculty of Architecture in Luigi Vanvitelli in Naples, and is probably for me, is one of the most important, interesting architects in this moment on the Italian scene. He's widely published, he's working mostly in Italy, but his work is well known on different publications all around the world. So it's very interesting. We are a bunch of people which has a very interesting, let's say, crossroads, working on different fields, but at the same time, every time working together with public, together with communities. And this is, for me, is very interesting because we are living a very strange moment where working with communities is a problem, or is considered a problem. No? So I would like with you to start from this point of view. How good design, how good curatorial practice can help defeating fear, can help destroying walls that are separating people in this moment where apparently cities are under discussion and are under threat. So I would start as a gentleman with Denise, asking her what she thinks about and how we can face this kind of a situation.
Thank you very much, Luca. Well, maybe I'll start with what we have done last with the Istanbul Design Biennial. We're organizing it since 2012 under the umbrella of the Istanbul Foundation for Culture and Arts. And this year we're celebrating, or let's say we opened our 5th Istanbul Design Biennial on October 15th. And our theme this year is Empathy Revisited, Designs for More Than One. Which will help me to actually answer your question. Our curator, Mariana Pestana, inaugurated this theme in 2019, in December, actually, a couple months before the pandemic, and somehow was actually talking about this problem or about the situation, how to reconnect again with the communities, how to find new ways to work with communities, and how design can be helpful in this sense. So everything under the umbrella of empathy revisiting. We kind of lost empathy, not only between the humans, let's say, but we lost empathy with the world, if you want. So, and we lost empathy with our environment, with other species, but especially between the people and between the communities. So throughout the last years of the Design Biennial, we have seen that architects and designers are very eloquently working their way through this problem, let's say, or putting the finger on this problem. And with all their design projects, they're emphasizing the need of reconnecting and thinking together and being more in communication, whether it is an architectural project or design of parts of the city, or designing objects, or designing or researching in things that are not really tangible, let's say, but always emphasizing on how important it is to collaborate and to empathize with each other. So this Biennale also showed us the importance one more time throughout the last months, where we've been facing this extraordinary time in a pandemic situation, which maybe we all are not understanding, and all the work that has been done, also through good work that has been done through the participants here in the panel. I think we've got some guidance throughout the years to understand how we will manage and maneuver through this situation. Maybe I'll stop here and leave it to you to continue.
Oh, thank you so much, Denise. I feel that the word empathy is so much important in this moment, because in an age of fear, where everybody is afraid of everything, no? Wearing masks, using gloves, taking temperature, and considering the others as a potential enemy, empathy through eyes, through words, through everything we can do, is one of the ways to fight this individualization of the urban life, you know, which is one of the increasing arguments, which will be, I'm sure there will be a lot of discussion about that. Cherubino.
Add very quickly, I mean, with the design biennial, that's what we are trying to make actually our audiences understand. How can we reconnect with each other, especially as you explained, in this very uncertain time, and where the other human or the other object or the other species somehow became the enemy. So what is the way to face each other again? So what we're showing in the design biennial, or what we're trying to communicate at the same time, is what are the new ways, or how can we get closer without being in fear again? So this is a very big experiment in the whole world. So the Biennale only opens the window in that sense, let's say. So it's a
I think it's important, because your Biennale was the only one, the only big show open this year, probably will be the only one, unfortunately, since everybody has been postponed next year. So you're being very brave, and I think it's very important for you to do this experiment, you know, bringing the Biennale on remote, you know, because I know you did the opening on remote, and so it's very interesting. A word experiment, which gives you a lot of, I mean, for me, it was very brave and courageous what you did. So congratulations for your choice.
Thanks very much.
Cherubino, talking about empathy, no? Talking about staying together. You are living in a city like Naples, which is a kind of, like Istanbul, is a kind of universal city, where living together is part of design the body of the city, no? So you make no distinction between the space, the place, and the people, because they are combining a kind of body, which is a living body, no? Which makes it Naples so unique, so important from this point of view. Is one of the cities where this kind of physical and emotional empathy works together, no? So for you as an architect, working on public spaces, working on the exhibition settings, working on places for communities. How do you think it's important, let's say, the Italian way of living the space for as a kind of antidote for the next future?
I think, well, I think that is very important in this case, this moment, to use this incredible moment as a moment to stay alone. Because we need to stay alone and to see the city, to contemplate. Because we have no time. Often we have no time. Probably every day before this tragedy, we have no time to contemplate. So in this case, we have an incredible opportunity. And the opportunity is to stay alone and to work alone. and to see inside yourself and to understand something that I learned along my career. I forgotten something I want to forget now, something I want to keep another time, a new time with me. And I want to manipulate, to use these elements and to have a new, also the definition of this and the other are dimmi,
no,
say me.
The connection is going on in and out.
Okay, probably it's not good connection. And can you hear me now?
Oh yes, no, I can hear you. Yes, yeah.
Okay, and probably we also the definition of the city that are full up of people that are like natural theaters. Goethe say that Naples and Istanbul are like two popular theater city. I think that has to be redefined, because we need to use this moment like a moment of incredible phase for us. We can see our city like a metaphysical painting, and in a different way, we have not this opportunity. A lot of years ago, we was very fascinated from public dimension, collective dimension, but a lot of masterpiece of cinema, literature, culture are based on people that stay alone. And so I think that this moment for my face, for my image, is very important to understand really what is Naples, what are the other city, what is my relation with other people. And probably this strange situation that changed completely the state of things. So if I say my old father or my old mother, I probably can damage them. And it's a very strange thing. I was educated to have a contact with people and with my parents, with my wife, with my daughters. But now I would like to use this like a mirror for myself, because I think that myself needs in 2020 to have a moment of stop. I am particularly come si dice insofferente?
Suffering, you are suffering.
And suffering, and in this moment I am not very interested to the normal situation and to the rhetoric of social contacts. We have had too much social contacts. We have worked on an impossible and stupid rhetoric of collective and urban space that are very dangerous, but not from pandemic, but from a lot of time. So we have the sensation that we need to have a contact with other people. Yes, it's natural for people to stay with others, but for when you are thinking on your work, when you are creating something, when you are putting order in your mind, you need to be alone. So in this case, you are probably, now that I am 58, when I was 30, also when I created, when I was creating, I need to have people. I need to have someone with to spend some words. And now I know. Now I think that it's completely different, because we need to work on some things that we need to have the illusion that are new and essential, and these things we not found in the past, and probably we need to find in this moment. Io sbaglio sempre i verbi, non so.
No, it's okay. So now it's clear. It's, thank you so much. Efe, Cherubino was asking for kind of isolation to go back to basics, no? To consider basics as a way to establish a different vision on things. For you, working between art and architecture and working on the public realm of the, let's say, public culture, which is your impression about this situation, and what do you think about what we are discussing now?
When we are thinking about this whole situation, which we can think we are now maybe living in the kind of strange days, you mean? I mean, yeah, it's. I think it is something that, when I look at my perspective, and we are dealing with art works, and when we are dealing with art, what makes art an art is takes a life from itself and finds the strange pieces of it, in fact. So when we are dealing with art, this was what we are doing all day long, in fact. So when another strange days came with this whole period, was it really a bad thing, or it wasn't an advantage? I'm not sure about it. In the, of course, context of art. Yeah. Maybe we can put it design, culture, social impacts, everything we can put into it. But I must say that there was something going wrong, and everybody was feeling it. And there was a kind of stuck between things, people, and as a system, the artists were always feeling the lack pieces of these things. When this pandemic came and whole strange things start to happen in this last year's period, this became a kind of period that everybody, not all, of course, not only the artists, but every people of the society started to see the things that they don't see in their daily lives. So when we take it in this our own profession, which we didn't stop doing anything, of course, as everybody, we continued producing things, and this impacts became kind of creative solutions for us. I mean, there were advantages for our professional productions. So I must say that these things that happen is a kind of a symptom for the modern society, because modern society started to, which we understood later, that made us a kind of blind, in a blind progress, that we were living in the culture. It's a kind of let's say, a kind of simulacre. And with this pandemic, we started to see the fear, and which is a very human feeling. And this kind of human fear, the other feelings that we see, that we don't know anything about what's happening. So these kind of psychological effects started to, in my position, kind of creative and human connection to life again. So what's happening now is we will take the results of these creative productions later on. I mean, of course, now we are still we are in the kind of crisis mood, but this crisis will go, and this creative and productive part of it will come later on.
Okay, thank you so much. Alper, since you have been working a lot on public spaces, you design a museum, you have been working on the facade on an important square in Istanbul. The public spaces are always inside your work. And which is your, attitude in relation to what we discuss in this moment, in relation to what you do and in relation to the project you are carrying on in this moment?
Yeah, I think it's, we completely are going through an interesting phase. I agree with Deniz that we need some more communication. And I agree with Gambardella, we should go to basics somehow. So in between thinking of those, looking at the communication level, communication tools we have, and is not being working very well. I'm thinking this, we should be talking about the different mode of communication. So is it a physical contact? Is it having the same work, same problems all together as a group, as members of the society? And are we kind of more close to each other as societies because we are fighting against the same threat? So I think maybe this is the time that we only available to our new ways of communicating for the first time. So I think in this sense it's completely interesting. Like I have never seen, like a couple of days ago there was an art exhibition which we also participated. I haven't seen people that was so much interested in the physical things, the communication, coming together really. So maybe we were communicating too much at certain level, and finding out the basics, the basic communication, going back to some basic communication, worked very nicely. I'm thinking going back to paper and pencil, like all this physical production tools, only accidental meetings rather than social media and stuff. It might bring up new things for our society. And the architecture level, of course, this is interesting. More and more, this is becoming a case, like how people are going to come together, and are we going to be able to meet like we used to before? And I think, yes, come together, and we are going to value how we came together even better in the future. So coming together in open spaces, being physically present in certain places, not scrolling through your iPhone while you are in the same, while you are having a coffee together. So I think we might reach this point where we intentionally communicate what beyond what we call communication today. So I think architecture is in a very critical point where we can ignite and improve this kind of interactions. So I'm curious for what it might bring. I have an idea about what it might bring, and I think I'm positive it might change things in a positive way.
Yeah, I agree with you on the fact that probably the situation of being so far and not so close will bring a materiality of things, the needs of feeling bodies and feeling touch and feeling let's say the the basics of our life in a completely different way. I remember one time that during the lockdown, I hadn't seen people for so much time, and then I met a friend in the street, and it just touched my shoulder for a moment, and that touch was so echoing in my body for days, because I was not get used to be touched again by people who was not part of my family, you know? And it impressed me so much about this sensation that I think it's absolutely interesting to see how our body will, let's say, register the trauma and what we are living today, which I think it's so interesting. I'm sure that Deniz, through this Biennale of Mariana Pestana, but also through your experience on curatorial field, is reflecting a lot on these elements, you know, of bodies and space and memories of traumas and how to reconnect together. But since it's Italian Design Days, I would like to make you a very simple question, which I like to provoke every time, you know, is about your Italy, you know, it's about your Italian experience. Then I will ask Cherubino to talk about his idea or what his basics is important to bring from Italy to, let's say, to Turkey. But I would like to ask you, since you are coming a lot of time to Milano, to Venice, Italy, you know it very well, but which is let's say, the core of the Italianity that you love more, that you bring with yourself, that in a way echo inside you in a very wide way. I'm not talking only about design, architecture. Just you can even talk about the food. I don't care. It's okay.
Well, food is the hot topic right now, you know, in relation with design, obviously. There is a lot, obviously, that we take from Italy, in the sense that there is a historical and a natural bridge between the two countries, and there is the Mediterranean between us, and we have a similar way of living, a similar culture that's very communicative and that's very expressive, and family is important. Being together and doing things together in a community is very important. I think those are similarities that will keep our connection forever somehow around the Mediterranean. But definitely, I mean, since if I go to Italy, if it's not on vacation, it's mostly for Salon in Milano, or I go to the Architecture Biennale in Venice. So it's always in the realm of design, and we take a lot from that. The preciseness of the Italian design approach, the groundbreaking new ideas, the provocative approaches that have changed actually the view to design over the centuries. Also the Architecture Biennale that helps to bring together so many different voices from around the world, from different practices. I think these are experiences and knowledge exchange moments that are unforgettable, and those are the things that we're obviously now missing. The food and the wine, that's another thing, and the great parties, but definitely all this communication and in the sense like experiencing each other and being able to meet and discuss. But I totally agree that we had so many moments that we used wasteful.
Yeah.
And the possibility to come together in Venice from around the world is such a luxury that I think also we lost kind of the sense of the importance and the essence of what we were really doing. So this moment of slowing down the pace of the activities and rethinking our practices is a good moment. Unfortunately, we had to wait to this moment because human people, and I'm not so optimistic as you are for the future, they are forgetting very fast. If you look into the last years or if you look into the last 3 editions I've done with the Design Biennial, every single Biennale we've been facing another crisis. Was it an economical one, a political one? And I mean, this region also had his own pressure. But we tend to forget. After 6 months, we've been going back, talking a lot about what we would want to change, how we need to make change, and also thinking of the presentations we had during the second and the third and the fourth Biennale, how we were emphasizing the importance of rethinking the relationship that we have with nature and how we're exploiting the environment. And Anthropocene is being discussed so many times in different frameworks, but we kind of forgot. We have a very nice switch in our head to neglect actually what's happening. So I'm afraid that this situation will not really help to make change. So, but at the same time, I need to believe that we can make change. That's why we're doing what we're doing, because I truly believe that with all the exhibitions and all the curatorial works and the artistic work and design work that is done, or the research that is done, that communication that we can do through the Biennale or through the museums and the cultural institutions is so important to show that there is another way to look into the world, to make important issues visible also for audiences that are not professional in these different fields. Yeah. So we still need to be positive, but I think there is a limit to the positivity right now. And I really do hope that we can scratch the surface a little bit, and that individual experiences are so strong that individual people will have the trigger to make change in their lives, in their daily habits, and influence their own family and the community, and hopefully really have, if possible, a little change in the way how we are seeing and living and consuming the world, if you want. So
I think you're right. I mean, we need hope. Human beings need hope. So I mean, since we are facing daily, I mean, yesterday it was very interesting. I was watching to a Netflix program, and it was about the possibility of increasing the span of life forever. And then there was a philosopher who said this should be such a damage, because we need to know that we have a limit, because if we have a limit, we have to play with it, and we are eager to overcome it every day. No? So I think we need hope, because it's the only way for us to, as human beings, to face every bad moment. As a generation, we are facing a lot of incredible crises. That's true. But I think it's very interesting to reflect on that, not to be, let's say, neither apocalyptic or integrated people, but to find our way, to find a critical way, which I think is very important. So the idea of solitude that was over-exaggerated by Cherubino is a way to say, let's bring back to the real things, the thing that gives sense to our life. No? As you said before about being together, being privileged to be together in Venice, sometimes losing the sense of what we are looking. So I'm sure that next time we will be together in Venice, we will give a different sense of importance to what we are doing, because it will be unique. So this is fundamental. I totally agree with you. Cherubino, but I would like to ask you one thing, that you are one of the, in the last years, I learned from you a lot about the Mediterranean beauty and about working with history and amnesia, not to forget it, because it's the best way to work with history is to forget it continuously and to reinvent it, no? Which I love it. It's the only way not to get a victim of history, not to be nostalgic, but to work with your life, the body of the things you are eating and using every day to transform them into something alive, which I consider is one of the basics of the Italian good design. No? So if you should explain the good basics of the real Italian design, how would you explain it to people that are not Italian?
Well, I think that the Italian design culture is very important, because Italy invented the city. And invented the city and work on the body of the isotropic mass. And so Mediterranean is something very important, because all of us lives in a place that is very close to this internal sea. This internal sea has a lot of different characters. and a lot of different shapes, but as a strange thing that is based on the same same tone. When you play the piano and when you hear Debussy from Arturo Benedetti Michelangeli or from Rubinstein, you are very interested more than on the technique of execution, on the tone of execution, execution, on the touch of the artist on the piano. If you hear the fingers of the piano player that on the piano, it's not a good project, it's not a good execution. At the same time, we can define Italian research like something of very spontaneous. We have a past that is under us, but it's also in front of us and is with us. We have to manipulate this manipulation of this present time, and we have to use this time like a simultaneous table that we can use to change this element, finding new shapes. So Mediterranean architecture is very important, because when I was in Istanbul and I see the angle room of Topkapi that was on Bosphoro, like a open air room, was for me very important, because I have the sensation that this space was living like a lot of older spaces that are different as language, but are absolutely similar for position, for horizon, for sensation. You have the sensation of the wind on your face, so you have the sensation of the deepness where you are in the column forest under the city, with the water under the city. So you have the same sensation that I have when I have in Piscina Mirabilis, very close Naples, and it's the same sensation that I have when I visit the Mesquita in Cordoba. In Cordoba, there is another incredible thing. Pedro Machuca put a cathedral that destroyed the central part of this 1,000 of incredible columns space, with the intersection of another element that is not clear. What's very interesting in architecture is all the shape of time, as George Kubler said in 1975 in a study that he done in that period on Pacific. I don't remember where, but probably Luca can help me. And
it was in Los Angeles.
Yeah, it was in Los Angeles. The Shape of Time is a very important book, because with Gideon and the eternal present works on the shape of the time that don't pass is an eternal present. So in this eternal present, you can work on the chance of contradictions that probably are not the confused contradiction of the beautiful book of Robert Venturi in 1966, where contradiction was in every place. this period is important for me because I am alone. I am designing 2 hospitals and I am designing 2 villas, a lot of things. I am designing some new projects, but I am, in this moment, especially thinking on what is, for me, the real contradiction that is the character. The character is not
the character.
Is the point of connection between a line of Italian architects that I prefer, and these architects are for the modern Luigi Cacciadominioni, Bernard Rudowski, that is Italian and not Austrian, because he worked for his better project in Naples with Luigi Cosenza, and also probably Gio Ponti, also if he's completely abused in this moment. There are a lot of exhibition on Gio Ponti. It's impossible to think only to Gio Ponti, but Gio Ponti is very interesting. So also the radicals that are victims of a late success, and it's very difficult to appreciate. But I think that all this work can be put in the same situation, and I can understand their contradiction as the clear contradiction that is in the Mesquita when the cathedral of Pedro Machuca falls and destroyed the central system of columns. So for me, it's very important to have something that is very, very strong and is conditioned so difficult to understand, because 2 days ago I was in Milan and I was passing with Caro Fluca very close to the Torre Galfa of Melchiorre Bega. I remember this skyscraper as one of the most beautiful skyscrapers that I remember, with his windows. It was a skyscraper where the windows, the only windows, but not the facade, the only elements composed as a sequence of windows defined a building. After restoration, this completely changed, and it was absolutely similar to other skyscrapers, contemporary, that you can see in zone of Porta Garibaldi in Milano. It's incredible for me, this sensation, because for me it was an incredible moment. I was very disappointed for this action of restoration. So architecture always is born from other architecture. The Roman people say architettura of spolio. Also in Istanbul, there is a lot of architecture of spolio based on the on the action of someone that takes elements of Arab architecture and put inside classical architecture and define an incredible building based on this strong contradiction. And I think that Mediterranean have not to lose this dimension that is very important. I think that after this tragedy, probably we can understand how it's important to use this strange kind of ancient technology. I see my friend Luca a lot of time more in video than more than before. When was impossible to see because it was always in journey, and it was impossible to have a minute to speak because it was always in reunion or in meetings or in Congress and chat and etc. Now I see this is a situation where technology is very important because it's not the presence physical of a friend, but is a minimum form of presence that in past we have not. So when this situation will finish, we have to remember that we can stay alone without technology, and we can use our sound. We can work with pencil, as Alper said before, and with paper. We can read. We can work with ourselves, but we can also to have an incredible, enthusiastic situation that probably, I don't know because I am not so young, but probably will not be based on the consumism, on a system of post-capitalistic culture, but on a different kind of culture. This experience is too difficult to translate. So we have diffused this kind of contacts that are audio and image without touch. But we need to use a new kind of touch system that is not based on violence, not based on facility that we give to all things. Everything is good, but and we have to come back to choose. This, I think, is very important.
No, I think the call for contradiction is the basics of Italian culture, which I think is so important. Sometimes we forget it. We work on, I mean, there are people that are working on the opposite, but our way of contradiction, I think, is very important. Efe, you spent time in Florence. I think that your Italian memory is mainly there, not only, I'm sure. But can you tell us which is your idea of the Italian spirit, or what you consider universal of the Italian architecture culture?
Very hard question.
Yeah, I know. Well, we are here.
Touristic map or just
your personal. I'm not interested in tourists.
Okay. So I have to start with the girls because I was a university student when I went to Florence first for my practice, for the field practice, and I worked with a very good company there, very near to Florence. The thing that I have to say that, of course, everybody knows about the Italian culture and Italian people, that it was so human, I have to say. I mean, of course, everybody knows how you know to live, you know how to eat, etc., etc. I know all these kind of things, but it was my first time in Italy, and I always have the knowledge that Turkish people are very hospitable, and in our country we are always proud of it. But when I went to Italy, it was very interesting for me because Italian people were much more hospitable people. It was very interesting, and it was so easy to get connected with the other people.
Yeah.
I mean, of course, when I have to take it a more intellectual way. I try to understand what's happening there. And I could see a kind of a mixture. Of course, we are always talking about it. The mixture of the warm weather, the mixture of the high culture. The high culture is coming from, of course, a very deep historic basis, which some of the movements, art movements, architectural movements are started over there, and you've got a great history about the Romans, etc. So to the ancient history. So when we take it all in two vertical and horizontal way, we see many things get overlap in one country, and it brings us a very beautiful mixture of something, and both in visual and also in cultural and other things. But I think this when we take it in a more intellectual way, when I look at the Italian architecture, I have to say that my intention was not the historic cities in Italy. Of course, they are really great cities. I mean, when you go to Venice, you see a really fantastic city there, but it's a historical kind of a museum city. But when I have to say that for me, the Italian culture, we have to look much, in my personal opinion, in the modern sense. When we look at the modern culture, we see a style and kind of approach to the design, especially some of them, especially in architecture, also of course in other design matters like of course fashion, etc. But especially the modern Italian architecture has got something that differentiates from the others, that of course we can talk over it maybe hours and hours here. But it is, in my opinion, in Turkey maybe, it is not that mentioned in the global area.
Yeah.
Especially when you look at the 70s architectural movements, 70s, maybe 80s. You can take it from another period also, of course, but as I see that in these periods, you see in this cultural field, and especially when you see the relations with the cinema and architecture, you can see that much more easily, that these movements have got much more impact than many other countries. But of course, when a country is that good in historical base, everybody is always, it's our curse also in Turkey. I mean, when you look at the Turkey, nobody wants to see the modern culture, what's happening, etc. Just everybody's trying to understand what's happening in Hagia Sophia and mosques, etc. But in my opinion, these parts of this culture has to be mentioned much more better.
I agree with you. I mean, I must say that frequenting Istanbul a lot, I also love the architecture of the 40s and 50s and 60s, which is amazingly interesting and full of contradiction. The same for our contemporary modern architecture. So I understand perfectly your feeling. And Alper, I think we are getting closer to the end, but I'm asking you the same thing more or less, which is as an architect, what interests you more in considering Italian culture, Italian design? What comes inside your work of the Italianity, let's say?
I think for an architect it's really hard to avoid any Italian influence. Like Cherubino said, you guys kind of invented the city. It is around the time that for the first time when I visit Italy, I discovered that the essence of the meaning of the city. Then I discovered like what city kind of how it has been designed, how it evolved, and how it is not happening around the world. So I guess it's very influential as an architect to see the level of articulation it can happen in a city. I don't want to, you know, like this is not a praise, because I mean, this is a known fact. But I think I'm also kind of sad for the Italian architects, Italian contemporary architects, because there's so much to compete with, there's so much to deal with. It must be very hard. Whereas in our context, everything is almost built for today. It is not an accumulation. It's not looking for an interaction and stuff. But more and more visiting Italy, being with you, being in Mantova, you giving an amazing tour, walking in the streets in Milan, again catching up with you in Venice at a certain point. It was very influential. Then I started to discover maybe we shouldn't be looking for an amazing city. We shouldn't be looking for an Italian great city. Maybe the idea is an evolution, so it's not happening in the spark of a moment, but it is an iterations of iterations. So what is happening in Istanbul case, I think, is we keep doing terrible architecture, and we tear it down, and we do even worse architecture. It always goes like that. It's amazing, like it's amazing how worse things are getting. And you know, visiting Italian cities, I more and more discovered being with you, like remembering a couple of our trips to Mantova, to, like I said, in Venice. I discovered this is a work of iteration. So even if it's terrible, you should find a way to keep things and deal with it, and like start articulation, start dialogues, start kind of communication with the not historic, but previous times. So this is like what we kind of tried in Fitaş Passage. It's in a historic setting, but the building is very ordinary, but we try to see how we could recover it and make it kind of work. Like you have a broken toy, it is cheaper to buy the new one, but it might be very interesting and very original to fix existing one and make them work. So I think this is what we should learn from Italian cities. We shouldn't see the current picture. We should see this in the development of the history. This was very important for me. Beyond that, I think the conceptual architectural dimension of Italian production is also very important. Like the super studio, it is amazingly influential for a lot of the contemporary architects, and also for us, and also about what we are experiencing today, I guess. Remembering this monumental city, that's pretty much what we are experiencing at the moment. We are all hooked up into an amazing hub, a network of information, and like we are in our places, we are not moving anywhere. So I think it was an amazing criticism of what we were gonna experience, and we are experiencing this at the moment. So I think this is this Italian situations architecture is worth it revisiting at the moment, especially in this moment.
Well, let's hope there will be the chance to meet us soon, or let's say in the next months in Venice, or again in Istanbul. Or I still hope that I can let's say, celebrate Italian design days, coming in presence in Istanbul to make the dialogue with all of you. I feel that time is getting off. So thank you so much, Deniz, for your time, and thank you so much, Jefe and Alper and Cherubino. And hopefully, let's see each other soon in Milano, Venice, Istanbul, or whatever. It will be a good time to have a martini together, or a good glass of wine, hopefully. Okay?
Good idea. Bye.
Yeah.
Bye.
Thank you so much.
Ciao.
Ciao.
Ciao.